Good morning, and thank you so much for being with us on UBC TV. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda, which is a segment where we have a guest or guests and we discuss issues of national concern. Well, it is a Monday and fairly okay. It could be chilly or cold, but at least here in Kampala, and I want to believe the business district, at least the early showers are very done, and you can continue with business. I don't know where you are, but in case you're not yet to your workplace, rainfall may not be a successful excuse. Hours since it stopped. So wherever you are, thank you for watching, but ensure that you arrive on time at your workplace. I'm Robert Chirabo, and today we are going to be discussing a very important topic, something that over a time has dominated headlines in our country, and that is the state of human rights in Uganda. Now, the whole of last week, we saw a lot of concerns being raised, asking what is the Uganda Human Rights Commission doing when it comes to the various episodes of various incidents that we've seen that are regarded as violation of human rights, torture, and so many of that kind. Now, joining me today, I have the Director, Legal Services, Uganda Human Rights Commission, Ida Nakiganda, with whom we are going to be discussing more. And just to remind you, you can also be part of the topic of discussion by simply going to our various social media platforms and also our WhatsApp number. Now, please do not call on this number. It will be popping up on your screen. Just send me a text message or a WhatsApp message, and I can guarantee you I'll be able to read them out to my guest, and I'm sure she'll have answers to your questions. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. You're most welcome, Madam Ida. Thank you for finding time.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to all our viewers out there. We pray that you had a very good weekend, and we also pray that you have a good week. It's an honor for me to be here with you at UBC discussing this very important topic.
Now, to begin with, when we talk about Uganda human rights, what is your mandate? How are you established?
Yes. The Uganda Human Rights Commission is established in the Constitution of Uganda. As you may be aware, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And it started coming into force in 1995, and just to inform our viewers that the commission was set up in the backdrop of pre-1986 human rights violations and the regimes that we had back then before the NRM government came into power. So there were several commissions of inquiry set up, and each of them gave a very strong recommendation that in order for us not to go back into an era of human rights violations, there needs to be a human rights commission. And so when the Constitution was enacted in 1995, we have a full chapter, Chapter 4, on the protection and promotion of human rights. That is the Bill of Rights. And within that chapter, we have articles that are establishing the Uganda Human Rights Commission. So the commission is embedded in the Constitution, and with a general mandate to protect and promote human rights, but with specific mandates to investigate complaints of human rights violations reported to it, to monitor places of detention, to conduct human rights education and civic education, to monitor the human rights situation in the country, and thereafter prepare a human rights situation report or an annual report that we submit to Parliament annually. Yes.
Now, since 1995, we've seen human rights being violated, specific human rights being violated. But of course, now more we are looking at political rights. Now, you've been making periodic reports and bring them to Parliament. The last report that came in, of course, there were a bit of concerns. But even before we dive into this, let's first have a general overview of the set of human rights in our country as we speak of late.
Okay. So when you talk about human rights are those entitlements that accrue to any human being by virtue of them being human. So we have various categories of human rights. We have economic, social, and cultural rights. And in this category, we have the right to education, the right to work, the right to health, the right to a clean and healthy environment. That is that category. So when it comes to that category, we have to look at it differently, because in this category, you know that we require resources. So the government of Uganda is required to progressively realize these rights. The right to school, the right to education. Do we have schools in place? Do we have teachers in place? Do the students have their materials? Are the students supported? Are the teachers supported? Do students have access to the schools? Do they have quality education? When it comes to health, it's the same thing. Is there access to health centers? Do the health centers have medicine? Do they have medical workers? Are the medical workers well paid? When it comes to a clean and healthy environment, that has been a topical issue. His Excellency came out the other day on Independence Day by stating strongly that this is something that he's now going to take up, because it seems we have not respected our environment and we are going to pay the price. So the right to a clean and healthy environment, each of us has an obligation to ensure that we do not destroy our environment, because we rely on it for our very existence. Then we have group rights. We have the rights of children. How are we treating our children in our homes, in our communities, in schools? Rights of women. We've seen gender-based violence. Every day we have reports in the media about women being beaten up and killed in their domestic situations. Rights of persons with disabilities. How are we treating our persons with disabilities? Do they have access to opportunities? Do they have access to schools? Do they have access to education? Do they have access to work opportunities? So we look at ethnic minorities. We have ethnic minorities in Uganda. Do they have access to the services in general, access to health services, their infrastructure? So then we have the civil and political rights.
That's where I was waiting.
Yes, which most of us are familiar with. The right to vote, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, the right to freedom from torture, the right to personal liberty. That is that category of rights. So after looking at all these categories of rights, we then now look at Uganda. How is Uganda faring? Uganda has ratified various international human rights treaties, and this shows a commitment towards protecting, respecting, and fulfilling these rights. Uganda has gone ahead to enact laws, domestic laws, to ensure that people's rights are protected. We have the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act. We have the Human Rights Enforcement Act. We have the Act to protect women against domestic violence. The Act to protect girls against female genital mutilation. So we have all these laws in place. We have institutional framework. We have courts of law. We have institutions like the Uganda Human Rights Commission. We have policies. So now the question would be, with all this in place, we are still facing some challenges. We've seen challenges in the implementation of laws, because there's always been a saying that Uganda has the beautiful laws in place, but where's the gap? So the challenges have been in the implementation of laws, in the interpretation of laws. We've seen we've had cases of people reporting that they've been detained beyond the mandatory period as provided for in the Constitution. As you know, Article 23 provides that anybody arrested and detained, if not given police bond, has to be produced in court within 48 hours. So that has been a big challenge with the Uganda Police Force, and we've had complaints to that effect. We've had complaints of people alleging that during arrest and detention they've been subjected to torture. So what have we done We've gone ahead to conduct trainings.
So even before you go to that,
Yes.
what I wanted from you was a general, in brief, how are we standing as a country when it comes to human rights, a personal or commission assessment, yes, as Uganda?
As a country, like I've said, we've ratified these laws, meaning that there is a commitment.
Okay,
we
yes.
have laws in place that there is a commitment to protect and promote human rights.
So the will is there.
The will is there. The will is there. So now what we would want to see is the implementation of this will. We have institutions in place, we have the courts of law in place, but we still have incidents of human rights violations. So we need to question ourselves that with the framework in place, why do we still have these reports of human rights violations? Where do we need to improve as a country? Even as we've set up a foundation, how do we make sure that the foundation we've set up stands strong? And so those are the challenges that we now need to address.
In the general public view, and now I want to speak like an ordinary person with whom I interact to get their views, this is what they believe.
Yeah.
That when you talk about human rights, the Constitution is supreme, and the body that should be able to pull shots here should be the Commission. That when we talk about abductions, and we run to the Uganda Human Rights Commission, it should be able to compel other institutions. It shouldn't be just a body that laments by making reports or on certain occasions awards compensation, but it should be a body that can knock and say, hey police, hey CMI, hey ISO, produce these people. But of late it's being seen as, I wouldn't want to say in bed, but as a body. The reports are so nice, but there's something lacking. So let's understand to what extent can the Uganda Human Rights Commission force these tormentors of human rights to act professionally or to act in a manner that is worth.
Okay, so like I said, the Commission has a mandate to investigate, to receive and investigate complaints of human rights violations. So once we've received these complaints, of course the next step is investigations. And investigations are a process. It is very important, like in courts of law, that a case is premised or based on evidence. So during investigations, what we are doing is to collect evidence, because without evidence, then you cannot be able to move to the next stage. And so the first person we interact with at great length is the complainant, the person who has brought the complaint, because they have the information as the complainant or they have the information about the victim. And in this case, the complainant is the next of kin who has come to say, my person, my husband, my brother, my child has gone missing. And so would want to know about your child, about your husband. Give us the details. What is his name? How old was he? Where was he staying? What was he doing as work? When did you last see him? Those who were with him, what did they say were the circumstances under which he went missing? Who was the last person to see him? Did he have a national ID? Did you have the details? What was his NIN? So we try as much as possible to get information from the person who has come to complain. And then if in the event that that person was not with the victim at the time the victim went missing, and there were other people with the victim, these we call witnesses, we now seek to interact with the witnesses to tell us more about the circumstances under which this person went missing. So once we've gotten a sizable amount of information, that's when now we reach out to the suspected or alleged respondents. These are what the ordinary person would look at as the perpetrators. So, and our procedure is that we write what we call letters of allegations to them. We seek to have interaction with them. We seek to have a meeting with them, that we've gotten this information from relatives of these people, and they allege as follows. We give them as much details as possible. And so then we seek to get information from the other parties. And this is in line with the principle of natural justice, because you cannot rely on only one side.
Yes.
You have to give both sides an opportunity to state their case, and then you make you take a position from there. And so that is how we move as a commission in terms of evidence collection. Now, where critical evidence is lacking, you cannot move to the next stage. And that is the challenge we've been facing. That you cannot, you've not been able to get critical evidence in terms of details of how possibly the person went missing, details of the national ID, or even having an opportunity to interact with at great length with the next of kin of these people, because we have cases where the next of kin have been hesitant to give information to the commission. And so where you do not have information, that's where the challenge comes in. You cannot move to the next stage.
While you're still watching Good Morning Uganda Agenda, and we are looking at the state of human rights in our country, I told you earlier that you can be part of the topic of discussion this lovely Monday morning as we look at how best we can ensure that we up our game. We know our responsibilities, but also the security forces get to know their responsibility as well and act more professional. Now, you talked about where there is evidence. I want to look at what happened last week and some of the incidents. The commission has been criticized to a larger extent of being given evidence and failing to hold these various organs of the state in terms of enforcement. At one time, they said that the commission says the people given or the complaints we've registered, we've been able to establish that some are not even there. And I found Joe Senyon, you finding that a bit hard, the spokesperson of the National Unity Platform, and sometimes has been criticized for being a barking dog that never bites or rarely bites. To a certain extent has been praised, and some politicians say maybe flack is your way. All that the commission can push for is seeing that you get some compensation. There is a lot of dissatisfaction among the public as far as the commission goes to condemn, but also to be a safe haven for Ugandans when it comes to human rights violation.
I would understand people's sentiments right now. This is a very emotive subject matter involving people's relatives. So it's understandable, the people's sentiments right now. And what I would want to say about these particular cases is that we received, the commission, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, received communication from the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform Party with 30 names. And so we embarked on an investigation. And out of the 30, we were able to establish that 12 had been arrested by police for suspicion of having committed various crimes. And those 12 were highlighted. And they've since been released either by police or on court bail. Now the issue is the 18 to make up the 30. So we have done the necessary investigation as far as we could in terms of getting the information. Where we've not been able to get information, we've highlighted that, and we've highlighted the challenge of not being able to proceed to the next level without information. And where we've been able to get information, we've actually had engagements with the key security agencies. And by the key security agencies, I mean police, I mean Uganda Prison Service, I mean the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and within the Uganda People's Defense Forces, we have the Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence. We've also had an engagement with the Internal Security Organization, where we've put these 18 names to them and stated that with police, we've conducted inspections. We've gone to several police stations within the central regions. We've done inspections of prisons. We've been to Chigo, Chitalia, and Luzira, because most of these people were arrested within the central sub-region. So we've conducted our investigation and inspection, and we found that the 18 are still missing. However, where we've faced challenges in obtaining information from the next of kin, that is what has presented a challenge in as far as concretely putting some of these institutions to account, where you're lacking information on the circumstances of arrest, because some people are saying, we don't know, maybe he must have gone to another country, or we don't know if he's dead, we don't know whether he was taken by police, or whether we don't know the circumstances. Whereas we have people who are saying that he was picked up by what is now famously referred to as a drone. He was picked up by people who were masked, or he was picked up by people who were dressed like this. They at least have more concrete details in as far as the arrest of this person is concerned. So information really, in terms of information and evidence, is very key.
Now, when I look at the mandate of the Uganda Human Rights, the Constitution gives you the power to visit jails. It gives you the power to investigate. It gives you the power to monitor and write periodical reports. Article 50, no, that is Article 33, Cap 3 of our Constitution, says a person should be arrested in a gazetted. And among gazetted, safe houses are not gazetted. Among gazetted, you would concur with me that we've had people who have been arrested, and when you look at the formal or gazetted structures, they are nowhere to be found. Frank Baine will tell you, I don't have that person. Fred Enanga will tell you, I don't have that person.
That's true.
But the fact is, this person was picked by the famous drone, masked people, good equipment, well-built bodies, and one would assume he was taken by security. Since 1995 with your establishment. And these are the problems around this. Why do we still have people arrested or detained in these ungazetted institutions as the commissioner? What are you doing about this?
Yes. So, like you've rightly noted, the Constitution provides that once a person is arrested, they should be detained in a place that is gazetted by law. Why so? That my relatives will know that I am a CPS. They'll be able to come and visit me. My lawyer will know that I'm detained at CPS. He'll be able to come, and we sit down with him and prepare our case. If I am not feeling well, my doctor will be able to access me. A gazetted place of detention is open, and nobody will be tempted, for example, to subject me to torture, because there are people who have access to me. Justices of peace, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, will have access to me. Now, the problem with a place that is not gazetted by law, number one, you don't know where it is. Nobody will have access to it. Your next of kin will not have access to you. So you're closed off from the public. And when you're closed off from the public, anything can happen. And that is what we want to avoid. Ungazetted places of detention are not monitored and are a haven for human rights violations. And we as a commission have always consistently discouraged the existence of ungazetted places of detention, even when we saw that complaints kept coming up. We've been informed that at least for some that were being operated around here in the city, efforts have been made to close them. We would not want for any to be in existence, to keep being in existence, because it's against the law, it's against the human rights standards, because a suspect, even by the fact that they are suspects, they still have rights, even when they are under detention. So you shouldn't keep them incommunicado. Incommunicado means in a state where they cannot communicate with anybody, because when you do so, that's when we will have cases of human rights violations. Now, among the 12 that I've just talked about, when we recorded detailed statements from them, they informed us that they were detained beyond the mandatory 48 hours. And they were detained, some were detained at Chireka, others claimed that they were detained by CMI. We've gone ahead to register complaints of alleged human rights violations against these institutions because of violation of the article you've just stated, Article 23, that the person was detained beyond 48 hours and also was detained in a place that was not gazetted by law. And so their complaints are actively being investigated, yes.
Well, let me take a look at some of the messages. Those that are similar, I will not be looking at them. So in case your message, I've not read it, but someone else has the same view and has sent the same question, please understand. Good morning, Uganda. Human rights have done good in promoting indiscipline among public, because if a civilian stands firmly and slaps plus kick a man and a woman in uniform in public, for sure, do you think being trained means to be extremely provoked? Let us first check ourselves, then we blame security personnel. Well, please give me your name, kindly. And Uganda human rights under the armpits of the Uganda forces, so they are not performing to their standards. Odong Stephen in Nimule. Oh dear, don't send a voice note. I'll not have that played. So please, let's stick to messages, typed messages. That is what we are able to accommodate given the time also we have. Well, thank you for the program. Uganda Human Rights Commission is doing a very good job, but more has to be done regarding its independence in execution of their duty. Now, one of the things is people asking, a number of messages, how independent is the commission? One says that even look at how this by appointed into office, and recently he says we've even seen the commission being militarized. I think he talks about appointees of like the Smells, Ugas, another from the UPDF. So how independent are you? Okay,
so the constitution that sets us up also provides that the commission shall be an independent institution. Independence manifests in various ways. The commission, for example, stands on its own. It's not under any ministry, meaning that it receives its budget directly from Ministry of Finance. The president appoints the members of the commission, but the members are vetted by Parliament, the Appointments Committee of Parliament, and they come from various walks of life. We have social scientists, we have economists, we have teachers, we have human rights defenders, we have lawyers. The only requirement is for the chairperson to be at the level or qualified to be a High Court judge. But for the rest, they are from various walks of life. Even the ones that they are claiming that have come from police or the UPDF, they also have various qualifications, aside from them having been part of the law enforcement or security agencies. But we are also subjected to vetting by the Appointments Committee of Parliament. And the Appointments Committee of Parliament found them fit to occupy those positions. And when they come, they have to operate independent of whatever they were in their past. And when we are, I think independence manifests in various ways. When you're conducting your investigations, is there undue influence, for example, from the institutions you're investigating? And I would say no. We've not had any pressure or undue influence from institutions that we are investigating. When we are conducting inspections, do you first notify? Do you first say, give them notice, 2 weeks notice, we are coming, and so that they put their house in order? No, we don't notify. The Constitution doesn't allow us to notify. We just go and say we've come to inspect in line with the mandate that we've been given. So we try as much as possible to work within the independence that has been bestowed on us by the Constitution.
Now, with all those powers,
yes.
I see time seems to be flying.
Yes.
With all those powers, why do we continuously see incidents of human rights violation, now political civil rights, continuously increasing? Why must it be that every political season, why do we continue to have these reports of freedom of expression? Is it that people don't understand their role? Is it that security agencies don't understand what they should do? Why is the problem? Because you have a commission. You have your mandate, the constitution gives you the power. Freedom of speech sometimes becomes a problem. Sometimes one would say, no, the state has gone extreme. But sometimes even the people themselves, you would wonder, why would someone incite violence? Why is the problem?
So Uganda is a growing democracy. Even after we've ratified these international instruments, we've made them national laws, we're still a growing democracy. And we are still getting to appreciate some of these standards and principles. I would like to say, in line with one of the messages that we've received, that there is indiscipline among the public, especially when we are engaging with the security agents. Sometimes we are throwing stones and everything. The human rights message has always been, yes, I have my human rights, but as a citizen of this country, I also have duties and responsibilities laid out clearly in the Constitution. And most of the time we tend to lean more towards the rights. I have my right to this, I have my freedom of assembly, I have, forgetting that you also have duties and responsibilities as a citizen towards your fellow human being, towards those in the law enforcement and security agencies, towards each and every person. So where we seem to forget that we have duties and responsibilities, that's when we have the conflict with the law. That's when we have now security agencies coming in to try and calm down the situation. That's when we have the clash with the public. So we need to, each one of us, know our duties and responsibilities. Members of the public, even the security agencies, because Article 221 mandates the security agencies to respect human rights in the course of their duties. So we need to balance. The enjoyment of human rights has to be balanced with duties and responsibilities. Where there is no balance, that's when we'll continue having this conflict with the law and with the law enforcement and security agencies.
Well, I must let you go and leave room for Ruben to come with sports. But before I do that, let me just have your parting shot.
My parting shot, first of all, thank you so much, UBC, for this opportunity, to the Uganda Human Rights Commission, to encourage the members of the public, those who have complaints, to report to the Uganda Human Rights Commission, and to remember that as citizens of this country, we have we can enjoy our rights We have our God-given rights, but we also have duties and responsibilities. We need to respect the laws of this country so that we can live in peace and harmony. I thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Ida Nakiganda, who happens to be the Director, Legal Services, Uganda Human Rights Commission. One very important thing is we have rights, but we have responsibilities, we have obligations, and that. But also, we must understand that even those in security must front the respect of human rights. One person once said, well, today you have the instruments, tomorrow you may not. But the principles you put in place will save you even when you're out of the positions that you once occupied. Let's ensure that at all times we respect human rights, and let's ensure that at all times we abide by the law. See you in the next hour. Ruben is ready to take you through sports. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this